Welcome to this short talk on the Fellowship Round 2, Finding Your Focus and Using Evidence to Inform Your Application. We're going to talk about what we mean by the evidence base or the literature, how and why it's relevant to your fellowship application, how do you decide on, refine and develop your research question, how do you look for relevant literature, and how do you use it to build an argument to support your application? It's worth clarifying what we mean by evidence base or the literature. Evidence refers to information or studies, for example randomized controlled trials, that we're fairly sure have a degree of truth and accuracy. We can critique the method and we can make a judgment about how robust the findings appear to be and what study limitations there might be. So for example, with a drug trial, we might criticise the size, so the number of people involved. We might criticise the process of data analysis. There are many different things that we can critique. And when articles are published in what we call peer-reviewed journals, they'll have been sent to other academics to critique all aspects of the study. Evidence-based practice draws on this literature, or evidence base, and integrates it with findings of individual practitioners, so your own experience and expertise, and also that of service users or patients, carers, public representatives. So the people who use services, what are their preferences and values and perspective? For this application, we're asking you to find some research evidence, and that means looking for evidence that's relatively robust. So we're going to show you a little bit on how to look in Google Scholar. But there's also what we call grey literature, which are all the many other websites you might use. So things like King's Fund, social care websites, where there are many reports that can be very useful, but the method is less robust because it hasn't been reviewed by other academics. And they might have a certain bias, whether that's political or because they're a charity and they need funding. How is this relevant to your fellowship application? It's relevant if you want to carry out an evaluation or a research project, even if it's very small, and small is sensible because that's feasible. Are you interested in evaluating current practice about a certain area or developing new knowledge? If so, tell us in your application form why it's important and relevant to adult social care. Tell us what you already know, whether that's from peer-reviewed journals, from reports on websites, from internal reports from KCC, so whatever evidence is available. And then tell us what the knowledge gaps are. So what do we not know and how are you going to fill that gap? This is most relevant to Section 8, the detailed plan on your application form. Which sections of the application require evidence and why? So as I've just said, it's most relevant to Section 8. But research is public money, so we've got a duty to spend it wisely. That means for each section, think about, can I back up this statement? Is there any available evidence? And if so, what appears to be the most robust evidence? And then tell us what the problem is. So what do you want to address? How does that form a research question? So it's got to be a question rather than a statement. What research is already out there? And tell us the key findings. So distill what you read into a couple of paragraphs that tell us the key points and how your project will add to that knowledge base. And you can use evidence in other sections of the application, but just consider what's relevant and how it might be relevant. Designing your research question is really important and takes quite a lot of time to get it right. You've got to think about the different strands in your question and the parameters, so how narrow or broad will your question be. So think about who you're interested in. So it might be adults of working age with a long-term condition who aren't able to work. Think about what you want to find out. So it might be their perspective on what support would enable them to return to work. Think about how things are currently done. So often in studies we compare current practice with a new intervention, and then we try and elucidate the outcome. So does the new intervention or new process lead to better outcomes? And by outcomes, that could be quality of life, it could be return to work. There's all sorts of outcomes. So we need to refine the question into something that can be answered and that's feasible. So something that you can do in the time that you have on the fellowship. And I'd say come and talk to us. We're really happy to help you do this. How or where we find relevant literature is a huge topic, so we're only going to give you a little snippet today. We're not expecting you to do a full literature review, that can take months, and that might be the focus of your fellowship. But we are expecting you to have a little look at the literature and find something to back up your proposal. Again, we're happy to help you. A good place to start is Google Scholar, and it has access to a lot of free papers. And if you can't find something that you really want or you can't access it, ask us because we're likely to be able to get it through the library. You can also put parameters on your search, so you might limit from, say, 2018, because that's when a particular policy came out that's relevant to your question. And you might also exclude certain types of literature, like opinion pieces, where it's just one person saying this is what I think, because obviously that's not very robust. From your question, you need to think about the search terms, and that's the terms that we put into Google Scholar that's going to find the literature that we want. So, for example, I did a very quick search on waiting times for adult social care and is it lack of capacity. So I used adult social care or adult social services and capacity or staffing and waiting lists or waiting times, and I came up with 86 results, and about the fifth on the list was this one that looked really useful. And you can see on the right hand side it says PDF Birmingham, and if you click on that, that takes you straight to the paper. This is what it looks like in Google Scholar. I use the basic search, but there is an advanced search which I'm happy to show you. You can see on the left hand side you've got a date range, and I put in from 2018 because 5 years felt feasible, and also I thought with COVID there'd be quite a lot related to that. Then you get a list and you can just click on the ones you want. And what's useful to do is to keep a journal or a list of what search terms you put in, what results you get, and which ones are helpful. So if you're doing a full literature review, obviously you have to do this very methodically, but for the purpose of your application, just keep a check of what you've done so you don't end up duplicating if you can't find what you want. As well as using Google Scholar, you might want to target some of your favourite websites for social care. I've put just some examples of ones that have free literature. So if you're looking for background information on statistics on a particular condition or all sorts of things, the Office of National Statistics has an amazing database. I've also put Health Foundation because although Health Foundation suggests health, they do have other things that would be useful and social care related. So just use Google in the normal way and see what you come up with, but bear in mind that you want to consider the quality of what you're looking at. And also keep a record of where you look and when you look, because that'll be helpful later. Once you've done your literature search, it's time to read your literature and to pull out what you think is important and supports your research proposal. So read the papers that you've got and consider how you can build an argument. Assume that we don't know much about your area of interest or area of adult social care, and use the literature to convince us that your proposal is important, will be of benefit for adult social care, and is it feasible in the time that you've got. You might also want to build in training to help you with the literature reviews, and again feel free to ask us for some guidance on that. So thank you for listening. I hope it's given you a little taste of how to fill in the section on your application form, and also food for thought for your daily working life. Thank you.